Shamu, hey, Zach, hey, Sabat.
Are you a filmmaker or a content creator and looking for high quality music and sound effects for no
Como Avenue, say, Shamu, hey, Zach, hey, Sabat. Sabat.
Rahubat, Moisar, Rahubat. Okay. Kabul, Moisar, welcome. Welcome to our YouTube family out there. Welcome to everyone. We thank you for taking the time out to check us out. We have our discussions every week, every Tuesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And it's an important work that we do. And we thank all of you guys for taking the time out to listen. Hopefully, you guys are getting, how can I say, very inspiring information to assist you in your decision-making skills, which is what we're dedicated to help people make better decisions by giving them quality knowledge, quality information, what we call right knowledge. So welcome. For those who do not know me, my name is Peti Sina Tebtu Re'e, and I've been over a 30-year student teacher of the profound doctrine of the master teacher known to us as Patnabab Yananan, also known as Dr. Malakazi K. York, who has been teaching us our ancient culture we identify as Wu-Sabat, also known as Wu-Nawak, which stands for those who make decisions based on sound right reasonability, based on the principles of Ma'at, based on the wisdom of the Hutri. In essence, our culture was based on being in harmony with natural nature. Our culture was based on being in harmony with natural nature. Today, they call it animism from an African perspective, but the culture itself was Wu Nawab or Wu Sabat in essence. And it was about being in tune with nature. And we argue that the challenges that Black people are facing all over the globe, woolly haired people all over the globe of African descent, the challenges that we've been dealing with for the last 500 some odd years under racism, white supremacy, is due to the fact that we've gotten away from our original culture. We've adapted foreign cultures, and we've been in a state of chaos ever since. And we argued that there is no way for us to restore ourselves back to order, back to justice, unless we give up the foreign cultures and embrace our original way of doing things. This is how we rule. This is how we thrive. When you study our culture and history, you find out we thrive based on doing things that was designed to work for us, as opposed to living under foreign influences. And so we are dedicated to teaching our culture as a student of the master teacher. I'm one of many all over the globe who are dedicated to assisting people through having question and answer class formats. And I always like to give my disclaimer. If I say anything that may be incorrect or, not sound, do not hesitate to question it. Do not hesitate to bring it to my attention. I have no problem making corrections as necessary. Now, with all that being said, let's see. Before we get started, our culture is based on spiritual development. And so we start every discussion with our prayer system. And prayer is an aspect of spiritual development. It's very crucial. And we do our prayers, which is called namaz in our language, or lahaj, called Sabaic. And then I translate it for you guys in English for those who are not familiar. For those who are familiar, it is imperative that you guys learn to say in Sabaic along with me. The prayers is to get you in the right state of mind. It's to get your mind in a certain type of frequency and a certain type of focus to receive the download that we're providing here. That will, in essence, assist you in your decision making process. Again, our goal is to help everyone make better decisions, because the better your decisions will be better results of your life. This is how we change our lives for the better, by acquiring the right information, the right knowledge, and then applying that. And this is what we're dedicated here to. So, with all that being said, let's get started with our prayers. Bade kala namasat wufad ko aman kasamun shala pot. Pasawa wupa tarak. Panan safa kawun. Pasawa wupa tarak. Z kawuna Nazul laha ankum. Mana sabat Wu-Sabat. Ama hadayan shafayun. Mana salafu wunataru. Ajula ya nafasu kum. Afuk shane kawun kuma. Pasawa wupa tarak. This book is the truth and the way, which was sent down for you all from Sabat Wu-Sabat, star constellation, as a guidance and a healing from your ancestors and overseers. Return to your own. Accept what is yours, the truth and the way. And nun tawa enkum lahe panan shafe'un wu alaj. And nun tawa enkum lahe nasuinun. And nun tawa enkum lahe ashuk. And kum ata salafunun. And nun ata kharat ukum. And nun talub nasar kuma. And nun talub nasar kuma. And so nun sayam nataru. And so nun salafu nun. And nun ata munwapu. We thank you all for this healing and cure. We thank you all for not forgetting us. We thank you all for Ashuk. You are our ancestors. We are your children. We seek your help. We seek your help. Help us, divine overseers. Help us, our ancestors. We are Musba'u. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. Jennifer. All right. Before we get started, every week we go over the principles, the core principles of Wu-Sabat / Wu-Nawat. For those who are not familiar with our core principles, it's imperative that you notice. For those who are learning the culture, want to be introduced into the culture, or just checking us out for the first time, it is imperative that you understand the core principles in which we live by. All of our lectures, discussions, chats, whatever you name, are based around our core principles. And so it is imperative that one understand those core principles, because the goal is to implement these principles into your day-to-day action and deeds so that you can become a better person. This is our ultimate objective, to become better people so that we can achieve phenomenal objectives. And this is why we stress these key principles explicitly all the time. And for those you guys who are regulars who've been listening to us, you guys hopefully by now know these core principles inside and out, every aspect of it. You should, if you've been watching us, and if you don't, this is your goal, to master these core principles and to implement them into your day-to-day actions and deeds, because we should begin to see the results in our lives. And as more of us have better lives, that will affect our friends, our families, and those around us. This is how we change our lives and our world around us for the better, by being better. So with that being said, principle number 1 is Ashak. It stands for divine love, or the power of love. It's very imperative. We did a discussion on that, so I'll always telling you guys to watch those lectures, study them, right? Study the lecture we did on Ashak. Principle number 2 is resurrection. Resurrection is about becoming goddesses and gods by learning to open our third eye, as our ancestors once did. This is the resurrection of our higher selves, our spiritual nature. We did a discussion on that, so definitely check that lecture out. Principle number 3 is the wisdom of Dahutri and Ma'at. Dahutri stands for our divine mind, and Ma'at stands for order. We did a discussion on that, so definitely check those two. It was 2 different lectures, so definitely check them out. Principle number 4 is relationships. As an African people, we always live of, for, and by each other, as a community, as a tribe, as a nation. We've gotten away from doing this, and we're under these foreign cultures of capitalism, communism, socialism, and it does not work for us. What does work for us is living the way we used to live, as our ancestors once did. And we did a lecture on this, so definitely check that discussion out. Principle number 5 is morphic resonance / matrix. Morphic resonance deals with sounds, colors, tones, vibrations, frequencies, and matrices are the manifestations of those sounds, tones, colors, vibrations. Principle number 6 is Leviathan. Leviathan equals moon culture, aka religion, aka Western culture, is what we're at war with. We've been at war with Leviathan for the past 6,000 years in particular, especially within the last 500 years of Western culture, domination over us. We did a discussion on that, so definitely check that out. Principle number 7 is soul and spirit. Your soul is your emotional force. Your spirit is your life force. We did a discussions on that, so definitely check that out. Principle number 8 is health. First key to health is a positive mind. As melanated children, we need a lot of sunlight. Water, our body's at least 70% water. Fasting, we recommend at least once or twice a week. Herbal diet, as Dr. Sabi has taught us. Exercise, rhythmic breathing, meditation, concentration, prayer, and chanting. Health, as we always say, is not just what you do physically, but it's also what you must do spiritually in order to have complete positive health. And we did a discussion on that, so definitely check that out. Principle number 9 is Pa'ut, which stands for the creative force. Then we have the Smat, which is the cycles of existence. The creative force is based on perpetual cycles. And you have Achak, which is the creative energy of existence. It translates to ether. right? That's the creative energy of existence. And we did discussions on that. So definitely check that out. Now, goals of students at Wu-Sabat. We have three primary goals. Goal number one is to raise the self. Goal number two is to fight Leviathan. And goal number three is to work to build Sabbatia. Now, in goal number one, you must be born again, as the Christians teach, by learning the culture of Wu-Sabat and to live it, right? Give up the old culture for the new culture. This is imperative. In addition to that, you must correct your name, right? Choosing a Sabian name and make it known to all. This is name is key. I can't stress that enough. You must learn to correct how you look and dress. This is a part of the cultural change. You must learn to speak Sabic, right? We have to speak our own Lahaj or language. You must study our doctrine every day, which builds your sound right reasoning skills. This is what's going to help you in making those better decisions by studying the doctrine perpetually. Guys, I can't stress that enough. You must practice and master our daily rituals to turn yourself inside out. This is how you're going to open your third eye, right? And you must always be positive. You're not going to achieve any worthwhile goal unless you maintain a positive state of mind. Now, goal number two is our fight against Leviathan. This includes working to free Panda Babyanan, promoting Wu-Sabat, become a student teacher, and fight the six strongest weapons of Leviathan, which are ignorance, our fears, our ego, angers, our lust/desires, and lies/deception. And goal number three is to work to build Sabbatia. We must work to support each other in business. We must help each other reach positive goals. We must help to build our culture. We must set up a landing zone for Panatharu in Africa, which means we need land in Africa that would be supported by an African government. And a shuk is the key to accomplish all our goals. Now, what does it mean to be a Sabian? A Sabian is someone who is thoughtful and cares, someone who is helpful and honest, someone who is responsible and hardworking, someone who demands justice and honorable, someone who is righteous and humble, someone who is excited and cheerful, someone who is loving and peaceful, someone who is kind and considerate, and someone who is neat, clean, and orderly. Our purpose. Our purpose is liberation from adverse forces. This is the goal of every student of Wu-Sabat. Number one, you must take action each and every day to free yourself of 6 ether spirits inside and out, which includes black people who are possessed by these spirit forces. Number two, acknowledge and fight 6 ether from promoting capitalism, the gay agenda, miscegenation, the so-called equality of the races, and racism, white supremacy. And number three, learn, live by, and promote the laws/rules of natural nature, and each one teach one. Word of advice: do not judge this doctrine by watching the behavior of Panda Babyanan nor his students, right? Judge this doctrine by the effectiveness of the information, aka information, that you personally put to practical use. This doctrine is based on self-authentication. Know that we are not preachers, but teachers who are dedicated to answering questions until there is a meeting of the minds between teacher and student, who then can work in unity, which is the only solution to our problems. Quote, what you do for self and kind depends on what you think of self and kind. What you think of yourself and kind depends on what you know of yourself and kind. And what you know of yourself and kind depends on what you was taught and by whom of yourself and kind. Quote, until the lion have their historians, the hunter will always be the hero. Last, the negative mind talks of what it can't and will not do for self and kind, always complaining about who they don't like or trust, whereas the positive mind always maintains the peace by not complaining about that in which they do not like, but focus on finding solutions to their problems, never allowing obstacles to get in their way of growth. Alrighty then. So that is our core principles. As you guys know, for those who don't, we go over this every week. So I hope you guys really are embracing these core principles and beginning to apply them into your day-to-day, actions and deeds. This is our objective. Now, today's discussion is, let's see, dimensions. Dimensional reality and nutational rates. Dimensional reality and nutational rate. This information about dimensional reality and nutational rate is based on a book that the master teacher had put out called Actual Facts number 17. And it's called Emotional Energy. Actual Facts number 17. And it's called Emotional Energy. Now, this is this particular book goes into that subject matter of different different dimensional realities, excuse me, and what we call nutational rates. Now, that may be a terminology that you guys have never heard of, and we're going to get into that. But here's the key to dimensional reality and being able to tap into other levels of, dimensional realities. This is the development of one's consciousness, right? This is the development of one's consciousness. So that's key to understanding this process. So I want to make that very important, guys, because the whole essence of everything we teach is the development of one's consciousness. The more right knowledge that you acquire, it will give you the necessary tools to take what we teach and bring it into the world of reality, which is the ultimate goal. Okay. And so it is imperative that you don't just listen to what we teach, but study what we teach. This is something that one must put their due diligence into each and every day. That's why we talk about it. That's why we go over those core principles. If you're not applying these things in your day-to-day practice and deeds, then there's almost no way to really develop the full benefits of what we're teaching here. Okay. And because this is the key to liberation. And I should hope everyone who's listening to us, everyone who studies our doctrine, your ultimate goal should be liberating yourselves from these adverse forces that we're all plagued with. All of us are. So let's get started with this actual facts. Okay, paragraph 1. Electrons and other subatomic particles are not solid. They are clusters of energy in motion. The charges of electricity, which explains certain attractions and repulsions relative to charge and magnetic fields. Every particle within an atom, or we say atom, moves in an orbit. Even the proton in the atom's nucleus travels a very tight orbit, which determines its apparent diameter. Okay, so you know what? Let me put on my camera, for instance, because I need to be animated a little bit in this so you guys can see me. Okay. But let's see. Let's go back over here. All right. So now when we talk about orbit, you guys are familiar with it, right? They say the planet, it rotates around the sun. So the sun is in the center and the planet orbits around the sun, right? It orbits around the sun. Okay. So that's orbit. So that's important to be clear. And so it says electrons and other subatomic particles are not solid. That's key, guys. They are clusters of energy in motion. The charges of electricity, which explains certain attractions and repulsions relative to charge and magnetic fields. Every particle within an atom moves in an orbit. Even the proton in the atom's nucleus travels a very tight orbit, which determines its apparent diameter. Now, I have here. Let's see. I want to pull up for you guys. Now, this is an image of what an atom is supposed to look like, right? So what happens here is this is the carbon-12 atom, and you see, if you guys can see, this is right in the center here. If you can see where my mouse, right? That's the proton, the nucleus, which is the nucleus of the atom. It's a very small area here in the center. And then you have the electron. It's the outer shell, which is, they call it here the electron cloud. And these are smaller particles that revolve around the nucleus. Okay. Now, what I was just reading is that what they call it particles, but they're really clusters of energy. Okay. So that's important to understand it. And they orbit. So what he was saying is that you have the electrons, they orbit around the protons, but even the protons themselves have a very tight or small orbit. So it's also moving in a circular motion within its confines. So that's important for you guys to know. So let's go back to where we at. So it says every particle within an atom moves in an orbit, right? Even the proton in the atom's nucleus travels a very tight orbit, which determines its apparent diameter, right? Diameter is the size. Now, in addition to orbiting, there is another important motion of all subatomic particles. It's called nutation, from nutate or noop or droop. Noapians, you must understand nutational motion because it is the very key to the secrets of this universe you are in right now. Every subatomic particle spins about its own internal axis, and nutation refers to a wobble of the axis rotation. Each particle in the physical universe experiences the nutational period of precisely the exact same rate. So what is he saying here? So now the particles, we showed the atoms. So let me go back to the atoms. The particles in the atoms, they orbit, right? So they move in an orbit. Okay, all of the particles, including the nucleus, also moves in an orbit. Now, as it's moving in its orbit, it's also spinning. So as it's moving, it's spinning. I don't know if you guys, I wish I had a diagram of that where you see the Earth, where the Earth is spinning and orbiting at the same time. It's spinning and orbiting at the same time. It's spinning and orbiting at the same time, but it's doing something else. And it also has a nutational rate. So what that means is as it's spinning and orbiting, it also spins in a certain way. So let's say it's spinning in a certain way, this particular particle, and he says it's regardless whether it's regardless of how small or big the object is within the universe. So every particle in the universe has the same nutational rate. Okay, so it's spinning, or excuse me, it's orbiting around, and it's rotating, it's spinning, and it spins at a certain type of frequency. That's called nutation. And the nutation rate is for every particle in the universe. It's exactly the same. That's very key for you guys to get that. I hope that made that clear. If you have questions on it, ask, because this is really important. You guys understand this, what I'm saying. Okay, so now let's go back. So it says, so in fact, each subatomic particle of matter and each quantum particle of electromagnetic energy spins on its own axis, right? As I said, it spins on its own axis, just as this planet, Patanun, Earth, turns on its poles, right? The Earth, everybody knows the Earth spins. And all these axial wobbles at one constant rate, regardless of the energy or mass, called its sum. So now they all, whether it's a small subatomic particle or whether it's the planet Earth itself, right? It doesn't matter that the nutational rate is the same, regardless of the size. In fact, I have my basketball. My basketball, because this is probably a good, so now spinning is that's what the particle is doing. It's spinning, right? So every particle is spinning and it's orbiting. So it's spinning. And I'm glad you guys probably seen this in science, depictions of the Earth, and it's spinning, it's orbiting. Now, as it's spinning, its spin has a certain way it wobble that it spins, and that's called the nutation. That's the nutation, and the nutation rate is the same for every particle, whether it's subatomic or whether it's the planet Earth. All of the nutational rates are exactly the same throughout the whole universe. You must know this. You must know this. This is very important. You guys understand that point. Okay. So now it goes on to see. Let's see. So it says, so in fact, each subatomic particle of matter, and each quantum particle of electromagnetic energy spins on its own axis, just as this planet Earth turned on its own poles. And that all these axial wobbles at one constant rate, regardless of the energy or mass called its sum, as in sum of a thing, or something, or sum, right? The sum of something, of its weight or and size of its particle. Now, it's very important that you distinguish between spinning and orbiting. All particles spin. Now, I just showed you that spinning and orbiting. We made that distinction, right? Now, energy can be changed into matter and vice versa. That's key, guys. Remember that energy, matter comes from energy, but matter can also be converted back into energy. Okay, you guys know that matter comes from energy, material matter. Every object is made of energy because every object is made of subatomic particles, okay, atoms. And so every object is a product of energy. But it's vice versa. It can also be changed back to matter, or matter can be changed back to energy, depending on its vibration. So that's important to know. Now we go on to say, so energy can be changed into matter and vice versa. However, the nutational rate of these particles never varies. So you never change. The nutational rate always stays the same, regardless whether it converts from energy to matter or matter to energy. The nutational rate is the same, right? Nor is there any physical power in this universe which can alter the nutational rate one bit. So nothing can change the nutational rate within the universe, okay? So now we got that. Know this, Nawapians, gravity and magnetism, which are in fact different manifestations of the same force, are inherent in the axial spin of etheric particles. Now, gravity, it's gonna tell you what gravity is. It goes on to say, this is definition of gravity: the natural force of attraction exerted by a celestial body, right? The earth attracts, gravity holds you down. That's why we stay grounded to the ground, because gravity pulls you down. So if you step off a bridge or you step off a house, gravity is going to pull you down. If you had an object and you let it go, gravity pulls you down. Gravity pulls everything to its center. Okay, that's what gravity does. Magnetism. What is magnetism? Magnetism is the force exerted by a magnetic field. And a magnetic field can either attract something. Anyone has a magnet, it either attracts something or repels it. That's what a magnetic field does. So that's the difference. They're the same. In essence, they're principles of the same force doing different things. Okay. Now it says, see, matter is essentially a concept of the human beings' sense perceptors, which themselves are of the same matter. Okay. You sense, right? Our sense, see, hear, touch, taste. We sense matter all around us. And when using our senses is made of matter themselves, which is interesting, right? You're able to perceive matter with your senses, but your senses are, matter itself. Keep that in mind. This world and everything in it is composed of atoms. Yet atoms are only clusters of energy whose seemingly solidity and integrity are due to the circular motions of their components. And so atoms, I just showed you an atom in this picture right here. They look solid, but they're really energy. But the reason why they appear to be energy is because of their motion. Okay? It's their motion that creates the solid, creates the solidity. That's important to understand. Now, an atom is almost entirely empty space consisting of a central blob of swirling energy sheathed by the orbitals of electrons. Okay, so we go back to here. What we're saying? What we're saying is that you have the atom, these particles, which is the electrons, and in the middle is the nucleus, right? But here is just all this empty space. They call it the electron cloud. And electrons are moving around the electron cloud, around the nucleus. And it's a whole bunch of empty space, if you notice this in this diagram. Okay, so this is a reproduction of the electron. Okay, this is a reproduction of the nucleus, where the proton and the neutrons are. and it's small. The nucleus is small, and then electrons are moving around this electron cloud around around the nucleus. Okay, but you see all this space? It's a lot of space that's within this atom, and every atom is the same exact structure, has all this empty space within it as the particles are spinning around each other. All right, so now let's go back where we are. The orbiting electrons describe a more or less spherical shell of energy. However, don't see in your mind's eye that this shell makes the atom a hollow ball of some concreteness. Okay, so now, even though it has all this empty space, that space is not empty. It may appear to be empty, but it's not empty. That's what he's saying. The emptiness in which the subatomic particles exist can be seen by the supposition that if the nucleus of an atom were enlarged to the size of the sun, you see the shell described by its electrons would be 24 times greater than the diameter of the solar system. Now, what is he saying? Okay, let's go back here. What we're saying is this. This is the nucleus. See how small the nucleus is? Imagine you expand that nucleus to the size of the sun. Okay? So imagine this is a representation of the sun. And the nucleus now is as big as the sun, right? A round ball. He says that the shell, this outer electron shell, the space, this where the electrons, this electron cloud, he says that it would be, if the nucleus was that big, like the size of the sun, the electron cloud would be 24 times greater than the solar system. So you take the size of our solar system and you times it by 24, and that's how much space that that sun is sitting in. That's to give you an idea of the space compared to the nucleus. It's that much space. It's a lot of space that these particles are moving around. And that space is not empty. That's the key. The space is not empty. Although it appears to be empty, the space is not empty. And remember, all of these particles have the same nutation for a universe. And that's very important to keep in mind. So let's keep going. I hope this is not too much for you guys. And if you have questions along the way, please do not hesitate to ask, because it's a lot of information. All right. So I hope you guys can follow, those who are paying attention. It says now, think like this. A pound of iron, which seems quite solid and poundable to human beings, is in fact really no more than an aggregation of swirls of energy separated by comparatively vast reaches of emptiness. Okay, so even iron, things that appear to be solid, it's the same principle. That's what he's saying. Even things that appear to be solid like iron, it's still made of the same atoms and has all this, space. Okay. Also, the physical body of mortals, this applies to as well. So your body is the same principle, made of these atoms and all this space. So it's important to keep that in mind. Okay. Now, the cells which comprise the physical body's tissues, nerves, and blood are of the same intangible swirls, right? So your body has the same nutational spins. The particles in your body, the atoms, the elements in your body is the same thing. You see, Nuwaubians, electromagnetic energy such as radio, heat, light, and X-rays can be envisioned as traversing pa'ach or achak, the ether, in the form of bullets or clusters called quantum particles. So we talk about ether a lot, guys. And so ether is constantly traveling throughout the universe. And now, Nuwaubians, this is achak, ether. This entire universe is permeated with a basic energy, which is of a ratified concentration compared to the energy bundles which comprise atoms and quantum particles. And so he's talking about that empty space is made of this ether. Okay? So even though you see the particles really come from the ether. The particles are made of the same ether. So when you're looking at the electron, you go back to the electron, these particles, the electron, the protons, they're made of ether. And they come out of that blackness of space, all that space. It's a substance. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, you will have a hard time trying to conceive the basic energy with the same overstanding associated with energy because the basic type had no motion and cannot impart force. So this blackness, this space, which is blackness, or our ancestors called noon, right? It's really what scientists are calling dark energy today. Okay. That's really what they're calling dark energy. It's just there, but they can't, it's hard for them to even detect it and perceive it. It is quintessent, it's passive and imperceptible. It is the muat, mother of energy and matter. It is that from which all things are created. And she is revealed to you by evidence existing in a wave phenomenon of the propagation of light, and that in moods of vibrations of the three colors, blue, yellow, red, which birth all others. By this, we know she is Pa-Pa'ut, existence. And so he's talking about this blackness. And this blackness is what controls the particles that come from it. It controls the speed of light, is what he's saying. He goes on to say this basic energy, or akak, ether, imposes a limit on the speed of Nawar, which is light. And it's all within dark matter. So space is not empty, right? She keeps control over all. Otherwise, you might expect a quantum of Nawar, which is light, to achieve any speed depending on the amount of energy that could be exerted upon it. If space were truly empty or nothingness or no thing exists, then radiant energy would be able to travel at any rate in an infinite range of speeds instead of having an upper limit, which has been named the speed of light, which is 186 and 272 miles per second, right? Which is the speed of light. The speed of light is constant. And he's saying it's constant because of this energy that's undetectable, this blackness, okay? The ether. It controls the particles that move through the universe. It literally controls its fluctuation. There's an order to the, in essence, there's an order to the universe. That's what we're explaining. Now, all electromagnetic radiation travels at exactly the same maximum speed through space, whether it be low energy radiation or high energy radiation. Now, Nawapians are analogous to the way air is the carrier of sound vibrations. The basic energy permeating of space is a fluid carrier of quantum particles. And what do they say of akak, or ether, substance, a fluid which fills all space, a colorless, volatile liquid used as an anesthetic, ethereal, light, airy, heavenly, and ethereally. Note, emotions and ethical, relating to or treating of mortals, ethically, ethics, the science of moral principles, rules of conduct, ethnic of a race, or ethnography, description of races, of mortals, ethno, distinction, character, genius, ethical makeup, and from whom the mother to the child, never the father. It's mother nature, or Pa-Pa'ut. She produces all the energy to keep the cell alive, mother of all living. Woman, female, is God, goddess, and she is from when male comes and predates man. Exactly. This is the best kept secret that is best to be made known now. We live in her womb in liquid until we're reborn into air. Bolts are ether and of quantum particles. Particles of radiant energy must buck the speed barrier inherent in basic energy. As particles comprising electromagnetic radiation proceed through space, a chattering effect with wave-like pulses results. The more the energy a particle has, the greater the frequency of its chatter, or that which makes a sound, which makes light, which makes things sum up to something, right? So as the particles are traveling through space, they're vibrating, and it creates a frequency, creates a sound, a tone. And how matter is produced, through these particles and their vibrations. It turns into matter. That's why I said matter can turn into energy, and energy can turn into matter, because matter comes from energy. Everything that's solid matter is made up of electrons, which is energy. Okay. And you can reverse the process either way. Keep that in mind. And it's dependent on its vibration. Okay. But remember, the nutational rate is the same. It's that wobble as it spins. That does not change. Now, where there is water, liquid, moistness, or from atum or atom, we get tefnut, which is water. And from her, you get shu, which is air. And from them, you get nut, which is sky. And from her, you get geb, which is earth. And of them, mortals, which is Aset, which is Lilith, Asar, which is Abel, and the Babtat, which is Eve, and Satuch, which is Cain, and Har is Seth. Right? This is the communal from the Egyptian creation stories. Right? These are the principles of our ancestors, the primordial principles, the elemental principles, and then life from the living waters, because these came from Nunet and Nun, Hihet, and Het, and Kiket, Wukek, and Neaot, and Neau, or the Amunet and Amun of the waters, called the Chamino, the Ogdogs, or snake-headed females, and frog-headed males of the deep. Now, for those who are not familiar with it, these are getting into the creation stories that our ancestors taught in ancient Kemet and ancient Nubia, that our ancestors came from these primordial forces, the forces of nature, right? And we manifested certain principles from the forces of nature. And we represented those principles of water and fire and air and earth, okay? And so that's within our culture for those who don't know. And these are the names of the principles. And so when we talk about creation, right, we're talking about these particles. This is how our ancestors taught it based on these names. And each of those names had a principle. So I hope that makes sense. And if not, ask questions. Okay, so now, Nuwapians, that you have a clear understanding of the inanimate to animate or physical world, right? Because we talked about subatomic particles, how they become energy, inanimate, to turn it into animate objects, right? Into particles or into matter, material matter. Everything comes from these energy particles. Keep that in mind. Let us talk about the phenomena of living things now in relatively simple terms. As you know, there are 7 abodes of existence spoken about, and 2 which they dare not speak about, making it 9 abodes in all. Now, this goes back to the SMAT circle, guys. These are the different abodes that the master teacher is referring to. We have a 3 ether realm going up to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, below 3 ether, you have realms below that, okay? And that's dealing with the primordial chaos, and that's dealing with 2 ether, going down to 1 ether, even down to 0, okay? So I just don't have that diagram up, but if anyone wants to see it, I can show it to you. But just to give you an idea of what he's talking about. Okay, so he's talking about the different abodes, okay? Then he goes on to say, each subdivide into sub-abodes on and one, and begins at atoms of matter and quanta of energy ordered by time. The physical abode is referred to as the slowest abode because the nutational rate of its constituent atoms and quanta has the slowest frequency of the 7 abodes. So let's go back to the SMAT circle. The physical abode is down here where the suns were emitting 3 ether energy, right? This is the slowest abode. Now, this universe, each abode, each realm is its own universe, and each has a different nutational rate. That's important to understand. So if we're in a material realm, it has that same nutational rate. Every particle, whether subatomic or macro, big, right, has the same nutational rate. When you shift into a higher realm, you move into another dimension, like a parallel dimension, and that has a different nutational rate. That's important to know. So you go from 3 to 4 all the way up to 9, and each one has its own different nutational rate, and the particles spin faster as you're moving up. Okay, so that's important to know. I hope that makes sense. So the physical abode is referred to as the slowest abode because the nutational rate of its constituent atoms and quanta has the slowest frequency of the 7 abodes, right? I just said that. Now, this planet, Earth, the stars and the light you see are all of this slowest nutational rate. That's what I said. Everything is of the same nutational rate. All of the stars, the planets, all of the particles, everything has the same nutational rate in this universe. Okay, in this realm, this of a 3 ether realm. Therefore, there are 7 nutational rates, one for each abode of existence. I just showed you that, right? In the SMAT, when you look at the SMAT circle, each one has a different nutational rate as you go up to each realm. Okay. They who rule for 6,000 years, 6 ether beings, don't have any scientific instruments on this physical material bowl which can detect or measure the presence of the 3 higher abodes, 7, 8, nor 9 ethers. Okay, so the Mukasu, he's not in tune with the higher abodes. He's talking about here. Let's go back to the SMAT circle. Right, when you get into the 7, 8, and 9, this is the realm of NoopooH. They can't detect this realm. They're cut off from this realm because of the energies there. The beings being able to exist up there, you have to be vibrating at those rates, and they can't. The Mukasus, they're cut off from those higher realms. Okay, that's what he's saying. So let's go back. They vibrate much faster and at a higher rate. The higher abodes we just explained, that will destroy them. These are more refined, more divine abodes of existence. Now, Nuwapians, you Nagato, vibrate on all 9 ether abodes at the same time as atoms and energy of one nutational rate are not in report as they were with those of a different nutational rate. So now our bodies, us as Africans, we vibrate on all of these different abodes. Okay, but we're not in tune with it. We're not in rapport with it. With our energies are not in harmony. That's why we're not aware of the different dimensions, because each nutation is a different realm. It takes you to a different dimension. I hope you guys get that. Okay, so because each one is a different nutational rate, I explained earlier. Now, that is each race. Those being the root races, the oldest and fastest to vibrate is the Nagato, followed by their many subabodes, and last the root race of the Caucasoid, the Mukasu, and its many sub-races, which vibrate only up to 6 ether, and the Mongoloids up to 7 ether. While the originators, the Nagato, cover all vibrations as the creators of all others from themselves up to 9 ether. So we vibrate on all the different abodes, as I was just saying. The other races, they're limited to different vibrations, right? And so the Mukasu and them, they're cut off at 6. They can't go into the higher realms. As Africans, we can go into all of the other realms, all the dimensions. That's important to know that. All right? When you're dealing with the Mukasu, they have no concept of this. In fact, I was listening to this lecture here, and this guy, he does this guy here, he does a YouTube called Closer to Truth. He's a brain surgeon, and all he interviews is other brain surgeons and physicists, and all they talk about is the mind and consciousness, and they explain and admit that they can't think spiritual. They're materialists. They think the mind is a product of the brain. And he's talking to this guy, and he's one of the very few guys in their profession who's also, dealing with he's a brain surgeon guy, whatever. He deals with the mind and brain. He's one of the few that says no, the universe itself is mental. Something we teach. The Caucasian can't comprehend it. In fact, hopefully, let me see. I'm gonna play a little bit Hopefully they'll allow me and won't censor the video, because y'all need to hear this. I'm gonna play like a minute, 2 minutes of the clip where they go into the discussion. So listen up.
Don, 1979, 1980, you and I were both at MIT getting involved in brains and consciousness.
Yes.
So after all this time, you tell me what you think consciousness is.
Well, my views are a bit unusual. I think that consciousness is fundamental in the universe. I think that it's not a product of space and time or anything inside space and time. I think that efforts to derive consciousness from space-time, either by identity theories or by causal theories, have proven ineffective. And I've been forced to take the view that consciousness is actually fundamental in the universe.
Well, everybody who we worked with, every neuroscientist at MIT then and now, would believe that consciousness is a product of our brain, and our brain is an accidental product of evolution, and that we have emerged to have consciousness for some fitness reason, and that's all it is. It may not have been necessary, and we have it, and the reason we think it's important is because we have it and we're asking the question.
Well, I think.
So you see that? Yeah, see that? So he's telling mostly all their brain surgeons, all these guys, the Mukasu, they're hardcore materialists. They cannot perceive that existence is mental. Now, guys, this is a principle we always taught as Africans. In the wisdom of Tahutwi, we taught that all is mind. It is a core principle within our culture and doctrine. Y'all must understand that. Okay? And they can't wrap their head around it. And so this guy, he's one of the few scientists that has been teaching this. But most Caucasians can't comprehend that the mind is what creates all things. All is mental. That's very key. That's very key. And let me just say this. There was another interview that I want to pull up. Let's see here. Where is it? If I can find it. Now here you have two. This is two psychiatrists or psychologists. Okay. The guy that's on our right, he's the one doing an interview. He's a psychologist, and he's interviewing this guy on the left, who's also a psychologist. And the guy on the left, he wrote a book about Egypt and Egyptian culture, and they're talking about the culture in Egypt and how the Egyptians lived and the principles that they live by. Okay, and I think it's a very important discussion because they're comparing it to here, Western culture, and they're talking about why did Egyptian culture last so long. Okay, what is the difference in their culture versus what in today's culture, European culture, Western culture they're talking about. So listen to this, guys.
And one of the extraordinary things about Egyptian culture is that it lasted for thousands of years.
Yeah, absolutely. It is extraordinary and remained pretty much the same during that whole time. There were, of course, differences in structures and things, but for 3,000 years to remain essentially the same that it started at is pretty astounding.
It is. In fact, I hope our modern Western culture can last as long.
Right.
I hope not.
The reason why it did, and this is opinion, that there was a consistency in their viewpoint, in their perspective of what life was and what God was, or what their cosmology was, or whatever. That there was no reason to change it.
Well, in fact, now that you bring it up, I was strongly influenced by the sociologist Pitirim Sorokin, who wrote he founded the Department of Social Relations at Harvard University and wrote a wonderful, massive text called Social and Cultural Relations. And he had used the resources of Harvard to try and examine every culture on the planet. And
oh my gosh.
He determined that cultures swing between two poles that he called sensate, or we could think of as materialistic, and ideational, very spiritual culture, like, say, in the Middle Ages in the West. But ancient Egypt that lasted for so long, he felt was balanced. They had a real healthy balance between the inner world and the outer world. And that was a stable balance that lasted for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, according to Sorokin, in the West, the only time we have had that kind of a balanced culture was maybe at the height of the Renaissance.
Wow. Okay.
The Italian Renaissance, and it didn't last that long, maybe a century or two.
Mm-hmm.
So a perfectly balanced culture like that seems to be very difficult for us in the West to establish.
Mm-hmm.
They can't establish it because they're materialists. They're hardcore materialists, and that's because their vibration, their frequency is at a low nutational rate, guys. That's why they can't get it. That's why they're scientists. They're not spiritual. They can't figure it out. And you see, they just admitted that our culture was balanced. That's my act. I keep telling you, right? Our culture was based on balance. We understood the principle of materialism and the principle of spiritual existence coexisted. It coexisted, and that's why we're in chaos today, because we're separated. We lost that balance because we're living Western culture, and it's totally materialistic, and so it disconnects you from spiritual concepts. And when you listen to their scientists and all the leading scientists in their schools, they mislead you because they're making you think everything is materialistic, and this is how our people think. And so you're cut off from the other levels of existence, the other dimensional realities. You're cut off from that because of how we've been miseducated. Yes, Gawada, humans are affected by the nutational rate. Every particle in the universe, including your body, every subatomic particle, every object, it has the same nutational rate. It does not matter, regardless of the each dimension you on has its own nutational rate. That's important to know that. Okay, it is important to know that. The only time the nutational rate changes is when you move into another realm. Then the nutational rate changes. But each realm in the universe, because each universe has its own nutational rate. That's what locks in the universe. That's very important. You know that. Okay. So I hope that helps. So now let's go back. So it says, while originators, the Nagato, cover all vibrations as the creators of all others from themselves up to non-ether, right? So we exist on all of the nutational rates. As Africans, we can connect to all of the realms. In as much as the nerve composing the mortal's one sense, which is touch, which became 4 other senses in growth, right? He's talking about our different senses that we have, right? You got see, you got hearing, you got taste, you got touch, and you got smell, right? Okay, and feeling, to feel things. The so-called 5 senses is really one sense, is what we always teach, which is touch. Everything is really touch, because which became 4 other senses in growth. Light touches the eye, particles touch the ear to smell, and waves vibrate to touch the eardrum to hear, and matter touch the taste buds to taste, right? Yet all of them are contact with the nerves composing what mortals call their 5 senses. While in fact that's only one. While in fact that's only for the other 2 root races. While the divine race of the goddesses and gods, not demigods, as the Mongoloids or demons at the Mukasu, the Nagato have higher senses. 4 higher senses make up to 9 senses, right? We have higher senses than them. We can perceive things beyond the other races, guys. Okay. All atoms, while all of atoms, while the mortals claim their 5 physical senses and agree is all of atoms of the same nutational rate as those of any other physical instrument. Their 5 senses are also unable to perceive the higher abodes, right? They can't perceive it. That's why they need machines. They need machines to see everything, to figure everything out. They need computers for everything. That's why they can't. That's why their brain surgeons, all the guys who studying this quantum crap, they can't figure out. They mentally they can't figure this stuff out. They got to use instruments. Keep that in mind. Yet, as you Nuwapians vibrate now on this lower abode and use only your five senses, there are certain inner powers inherent in you as the seed of the Natharu is in your blood. And by such, you have Akach, right? Which is the essence of existence. Akach. You have a Ba, soul, and you have a Ka, spirit. While the other mortals have only Akach, which is ether, and Ka, which is spirit. So that their mental powers are limited. So you must stop. So you must drop your vibration level down to theirs for them to come in and use your physical body on this abode. And by you travel to higher abodes to enact their isfoot called evil. He's talking about spirit being possession. You drop down your vibration. It allows their spirit forces to possess us, the lower forces, and then allows them to move into this realm. Okay, and they use us because we can channel, because our emotional energy, we can attract these lower forces. He's explaining. He says, let's see. It says their lust, their greed, emotional attraction to their own kind, which is all they can feel for. They only love kind and animal kind, being they vibrate at the same rate with all other animals and beasts. So the Mukasu, they're vibrating at the same rate as the animal kingdom, is what we're saying. They to kill to rule, right? They kill to eat. They kill for joy. They kill for pleasure. Evil by their very nature. And once you accept his 1 to 6 ethers, beings of spirit forces into your being, you have in fact lost your soul, your Ba, and become one of them. However, here's the key. However, certain Sahumat powers inherent in your mind can provide the means whereby the upper forces of Hu, your oversoul, will pull you back above by chanting and prayer and devotion to that which is right to do. So you can do, if you do the rituals, you can restore your soul force and connect to the higher nutational rates. It's in our nature to do it. We can restore our abilities. It's what the master teacher is saying by doing the rituals. And may even be seen, felt, and experienced. So you can see your higher dimensional beings is what the master teacher is saying. Because these beings are existing on all of these different nutational rates. Okay, the other realms, and we can contact the other realms, even though we're down here on a 3 ether realm, right? We're down here on this bottom, but we can make contact with beings on all these other realms, all the way to 9 ether beings. We can, if you do the rituals, as I keep talking about every week. So let's see where we at. These intelligent 9 ether soul forces or beings or etherians exist on all 9 abodes, right? And the bodies of the persons who function on any given abode can compose of atoms of that respective nutational rate. So if you exist on a different realm, your body consists of that nutational rate. So for like our ancestors, the Natharu who live on those higher abodes, they're vibrating on those frequencies, guys. So that's important to know. So they can be saved, redeemed. He's talking about us. We can be saved and redeemed, claimed by one with beings in the upper and lower worlds or abodes. Now, this being is Pa Nathar, Amun Nub Re'ah Patah for you, right? The master teacher we're talking about he's the one that's, here to restore us. He Pa Nathar Amun Nub Re'ah Patah is a Nathar in person and incarnation into flesh to save you, to raise your vibration rates higher. That's why the master teacher is here to teach us this affirmation. He's the only one teaching this kind of information. I just explained or shown you guys. As you can see, the Mukasu don't have a clue. And they just admitted, I showed you, they know our culture is based on this knowledge. Okay? And this is why the master teacher is here, to re-educate us about our spiritual nature. You have to have the balance. You have to have the balance. Let's see. It says he can function on any abode. The master teacher can function on all of those abodes, guys. This is what these 6 etheric beings have been told by their lower forces of Wicker, and why they have imprisoned him in such a high level to keep him from touching you, and in so doing, activating your higher senses. Guys, this is why they cut the master teacher off from us. The master teacher is in tune with all those realms. That's why theoretically he's not in prison. Theoretically, his physical body, yes, is because his body. Remember, his body is of this nutational rate, but he has his energy bodies, and he's automatic. He's naturally connected to the higher realms. This is what he's trying to teach us, how to do the same things. Every mortal alive today consists of many beings or forces of ether from this material abode. It's just one of the known 7 abodes. So you start. Okay, so guys, understand what he just said. Every mortal alive today consists of many beings or forces. We have different energy bodies. We have a spirit body, we have a soul body, we have a mental body, we have an etheric body. It's all of it consistent of us. We're made of these different energy essence. It's important. This is how you're able to connect to the higher realms, because you're really made of all of these different energy essence. Okay. So I hope that helps. And so this is another diagram of the SMAT circle right here of the different realms. So you got the higher realms at 7 and up, like that we can go to. The other races, they're locked at the at the lower abodes, right? So you have the abode of the physical, which is where we are. You have the abode of life. That's the plane of force. That's the next realm up. You have the abode of spirit, right? And then you have the mental abode. The mental abode is where ETs are. When people talk about extraterrestrials, they're at that realm. Okay. The abode of life, this is the plane of force. This is where you see ghosts. Ghost is at that realm. That's the next realm connected to that. And we talk about that a lot. I like to show that in the Doctor Strange movie has the best example of it. I showed this before, and watch this again. Here.
Be careful going that way. We just
The master's gonna do it.
I'm looking for Doctor Strange.
You're about 5 years too early. Stephen Strange is currently performing surgery about 20 blocks that way. What do you want from him?
That, actually.
Ah! I'm afraid not.
Sorry, but I wasn't asking.
You don't want to do this.
You're right, I don't. But I need that stone and I don't have time to debate it.
Let's start over, shall we? If I get...
Okay, so now she separated his spiritual body from his physical body. Now he's on the plane of force. Okay, and she can still see him. Now here's the question: why can't she still see and talk to him? I'll tell you why. Because her third eye is open. That's why she can see him. So she can see into the other nutational rates, because he's now in a different nutational rate, and she can still see him and communicate with him. This is what the master teacher has, the same ability to see into the other realms. Okay, this is what we all have to develop. But these are the lower realms, the plane of force, and the spiritual plane. They're still lower realms. It's because it's intertwined. It's integrated with this dimension, the plane of force. It's all around us, guys. It really is. Anyone who takes a time out to really focus on your spiritual development, you'll notice that you're within a realm itself. You'll notice it if you take the time out to do this. Now, as because look, keep looking. See how she's communicating with him?
I'm not sure the science really supports that.
So he's in his
Infinity Stone.
He's in a ghost form. So if you go to this other, I don't know if anybody ever seen this. This is Ghost Whisper. It used to be a TV show that came on with a Mukaso female who's able to see into the plane of force. She's able to see into that realm, and so you can see ghosts. And so this is a show. Now check this out. Little boy hit by train, or they thought he was. He,
waiting for my mommy. She said when I get lost, I should stay where I am and she'll find me.
so he's dead, and she's able to see him, and that little boy was able to see him.
Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Up.
So she's able to see into that realm. You got quite a few people who have that ability, who can see into the plane of force. They even do a thing here on Steve Harvey as a female who also has the same ability, who's seen it into the plane of force.
Teresa started to read our audience, but Spirit is still communicating with her. Teresa, go for it.
Can you please stand back
I
up
need
there
a
with the
drink,
picture?
man. I need some liquor. I need some scotch.
Channeling?
See how we can't handle this knowledge?
You would need more than one scotch. So just
Yeah,
what happens is what I asked to be done was to bring forward other souls, but more importantly, your son says, Mom, you wouldn't have known that I was going to depart.
No.
You understand that?
No, yeah.
He says nobody knew.
No.
Oh, he also shows me his sweatshirt. So do you have his sweatshirt or his jacket that you wear? Okay. So know that when you wear that, know that his soul is with you. Did you make a blanket or quilt out of his clothing?
I'm starting to, yeah.
Perfect. It means that he supports all of the choices and decisions. So if you don't think that he's at peace, there's no way that I would know that. He says, he also talks about his headstone.
Yes.
He says it's very different. He shows me this big black headstone. I can see my reflection in it. And it's very unique because you have like either something is picture engraved and then some type of saying on there.
It says, come sit with me a while and take a break. And it says 219 for our area code. And it's got a verse of a Harry Chapin song that was kind of like a...
Perfect. Like to validate that every choice and decision that you ever made with your son, alive and also departed. He says, I want to thank you for giving me that gift. He says, and I want you, Mom, to know that I live life through your eyes. So I want you to be happy. So know every time you smile, my soul is smiling in heaven.
Okay, so now she's seeing into the plane of force, like I just showed in the other film, the other two movies I just showed. That's a lower abode, okay? And so everyone has the ability to peer into that realm. If you develop yourself, some people like her, more than likely, she's born like that. This woman right here, she was born like that. You have quite a few people who are born like that, but you can also develop the ability. This is what we're teaching, right? You can develop the ability to peer into the other realms. That's important to understand. Okay, so now let's go back where we at. So now these are the different abodes, right? So you have the physical abode, that's where we are. The abode of life or the plane of force, that's the realm that you see the ghost. Then you have the abode of spirit. Actually, anyone who's able to raise up to that realm, that's where you can communicate with your ancestors on the spiritual plane. And then the mental abode, you also can communicate from that realm too, for those who are able to go into that dimension. So it says, so in fact, you all consist of 4 bodies in one, and each subdivides into lower states of existence, right? As your physical body consists of different kinds of matter. Your water or liquids subdivide in many. Your flesh, tissue, your teeth, your bones, each are of cells, yet each vibrate at different rate of material for hardness. So also it is with life. It subdivides by all that keeps you alive, right? So even your energy bodies subdivide, just like your physical body. You know, you have your nail, that's one energy vibration. Your finger is one vibration. Your tongue is of a different. Your saliva, that's another vibration. Your eyelash, right? Your eyes, these are different substances that make up the body, the physical body. These are different material. Okay, well, your energy bodies is the same thing, is what he's explaining. Yet Nuwapians, as taught by Wu-Nuwapu, all interpenetrating and coexisting, all atoms, all cells, regardless of the variant nutational rates, are constructed in generally the same way. And because atoms and cells are almost entirely empty space and are separate from one another by relatively large distances, I showed you that in the beginning, how an atom, the particle, you have the nucleus, and then you have the electron cloud, and it's a big difference in the amount of space. And he's saying because every particle in your body is like that, your different energy bodies coexisting in all that space, right? And so you're made of all of these different vibrations. You're just not in tune with all of the different vibrations of yourself. This is the key we have to be aware of. So it goes on to say, and because atoms and cells are almost entirely empty space and are separated from one another by relatively large distances, the four bodies of a mortal simultaneously coincide in space. The component atoms, cells, respective to each body of matter completely without interfering with one another, right? So all of your energy bodies exist within you and they don't interface with each other. Okay? Because of, and as you're getting down to these levels of existence, you it just has the ability to do that, right? Because of the space. I hope that makes sense. Let's keep going. Yet know this, Nuwaubians, what happens all around you is also happening inside of you. The atmosphere and its many changes are your warnings of change, yet lack of your own willpower to reject his system to serve. He who dictates your emotional energies, who implants his ways into your being until you live in his image after his likeness, and slowly lose your soul and forever be cut off from the ethereal. So we're cut off from those higher dimensions because we drop down to the Mukasu's nutational rate, his vibration. We're vibrating on their frequency, and we're banned. We can't perceive the other realities. Everyone, you can do it, but we're not perceiving it. You saw how Steve Harvey reacted to the Mukasu female who's she's only peering into the plane of force. That's all she's doing. She's not freaking up into all of those higher realms that we have the ability. Remember, we have the ability to peer all the way beyond up to 9 ether. They're locked at they only can go as high as 6 ether. She's only, the plane of force is moving into a 4 ether realm is where she's looking into. Okay, and so and not even that, she's it's so many. I don't want to go into that. That gets a little bit more complex. But my point is that we have the ability to peer into the other realms. But again, if we're not going to do the rituals, and I know it's hard. It's hard on me. It really is hard on me. It's hard on all of us. But we have to put our best effort forward to develop ourselves. This is why the Mukasu is ruling. He's not in tune with none of this. You heard his scientists. They're not in tune with these things. They're having a hard time perceiving it. And, that is. So let's keep going. Let's see. You make the choice by the perpetual condition you choose to live by your self pleasures, right? We live by pleasure. The natural laws of condition teaches you all that as long as the conditions are the same, the results will continue to be the same, guys. So if we don't change our conditions, you're not going to get new results. It's impossible. You must understand that Patenum Tenim He, or the Mukasu, only hates you because he knows these facts. We have the ability to translate full spectrum light into your being, into our being by nature. We can process full spectrum light. And he says the Mukasu can't do that. The Mukasu realizes they must lie, cheat, steal, kill, and teach you to do these acts of isfor or disagreeable to lose your sachemat, the powers. When we behave like them, it drops our vibration, it cuts us off from the higher realms. I talk about, I'm always talking about that. If we don't change the way we are, you're bound to this dimension, this dimensional realm. Okay, to block your, and they teach us this. He says to block your genetic powers. They teach theirs how to see or how to use our own powers against us. He said, lie after lie, deception after deception, and false promise after false promise. This is what slavery was about. It was blocking us from our culture and forcing us to live their culture of materialism. Understand that, guys, and that cut us off. Now your body's process is fat in the war, fire light, or bad light. We're constantly processing negative light, which depletes your cells' powers and nutational rates, because the food we eat, the way we think, how we behave. This is why we age, we disintegrate. Literally, we literally lose our spirit powers because we're not doing anything to harness our spirit energy. She says, and how does he work this white magic? He uses Celtic or Wicca by drama or fear or emotional energy. We are made to think we need things to be happy. We are made to think we need a God in his image after we're dead. We are made to think we need his protection to live in peace. We are made to have faith, not recognize fate. We are made to believe what he says while we watch him lie to all others. We are made to accept what he says about our race while we listen to him lie about all others. He put fear in you when you are a baby. That fear grows into trust in him as your savior, while he knows all along you are his God, his Allah, his Yahweh, his Lord and Master. Yet out of false emotions, you fear him, the weakest of all humans, animals. So he hates you for not saving him after death. His physical body is of the lowest nutational rate, even lower than some animals or fowls and reptiles. His physical body is what you see, yet beneath it, it is pure evil that you don't see behind his smile. You see only what you are commonly aware of, his many fake faces he creates on TV and plays and the cinemas worldwide, in novels, and mostly in religions, which he tells you to have blind faith in. An unseen, unconfirmed, unproven deity or demigod in his own image, a deception that God is good, so he is good. God is light or white. The devil is dark and black. That's his hate of you. Yet this physical world and your body is subject to time, temperature, and the chemical equilibrium unique to this lower abode and its lowest nutational rate, right? So we're locked into this realm. That's why we talk about the 3 degrees: person, places, and things. We're locked in this realm, and we don't know how to perceive outside of this nutational rate. Is what the master teacher is trying to explain. Okay, only the material or physical abode is subject to time of rules of movement. Only here is there a then, when, there, here, later, or now. Then only on the physical or material abode you were first. He was second. So he starts time with a first moment, not with a first moment, but a second, right? He says it starts time with there, 60 seconds in 1 minute. What happened to the first before the second? He starts physical time with himself, not you, the very first moment. Why? Because he was not there. Even in his religious books of the Bible and the Quran, no, he translates the statements to be in the beginning, or Elohim, or that Allah existed when, then, there, here, to create. So the first second creation is theirs, not yours. You are the one at the first moment before the second who said whatever they claim. So in fact, Nawapian, time is a function of matter and action of things. Without matter, there would be no time, right? Time is through matter, guys. The best way to look at that, if you take an apple, slice an apple in half, let it sit on your counter, and you see over time, it will begin to decay. The matter is changing. That's how you tell time, not the trick time that they tell us, how the earth rotates around the sun and the process of a day and the hours. That's trick time. Okay, that's how they deceive us, and that's why we can't really know which cycle we're in. Okay, time is how matter changes. And that's how we tell time through the seasonal changes from winter to summer, the fall to spring. The matter is changing. Okay, alters. Okay, so let's keep going. Time was born with things. Things are noticed by time. As you are born at a time in time, your own time zone, yet you existed the moment the sperm and the ovum touches. 33 and 1/3 of your mother and 33 and 1/3 your father came together as 23 chromosomes from each to make the new 46 chromosomes, or your 33 and 1/3 to become 100 of you. Is not all these actions recorded in time and time recorded by these actions? Now, as you exist on the first abode, or the material or physical abode, know that it subdivides also. Beings from the lower subabodes of the first abode, which are specters, ghouls, lost spirits, demons, ghosts, trapped spirits, all three races get inside of you if you open up to them, and they will walk into your body and take control of you without you ever feeling them. Some stay inside of you while others move on, right? And this is the that lower abode, that spiritual or the plane of force that I'm talking about, that ghost realm, where people get possessed by. Okay, that's what the Mukasha is looking at. And that what I showed you with Steve Harvey, she's looking at the ghost realm. These are people, ghosts. These are ghost people who are trapped in this realm. That's why you can see them. Let's say they can make you do things you would never have done on your own when you possess, right? He's saying these spirit forces, they make you lust, lie, steal, drink, smoke, overeat, and even kill. Once they have abused you, they depart from you to suffer their works for life and can give over your soul to feed the evil forces. They make you worship the flesh and the pleasures of the flesh, the things of the material world, and all it offers, with no regard for the short time you spent in your body, to the everlasting existence of your soul in the higher abode. So these lower forces, when they possess us, guys, this is where we get all our desires and our lust from. And they can care less that they're blocking you from going to the higher realm, because this is what's happening to us. We're cut off from the higher dimensions. We're not perceiving it. Right? We're not perceiving these higher realms. And that's because of the possession that we're all under. That's keeping us, our desires is keeping us bound to this nutational rate. And if we continue to refuse to do the rituals or all the things the master teacher says to do, there's no way to perceive the other realms. Right? Let's keep going. So death is the gateway to forever, right? Once the physical body dissipates, then your soul body, your spirit body can move into the higher realms. That's the gateway to going to the higher realms. Birth is the gateway to limited time. So when a baby is born, you're literally born to die. You're getting older into the path of death. Okay? The second you were born was in fact your second birth. Only the birth of your flesh body, not your soul, which always lived. The first breath you took lit the inner flame of fire in your solar plex. It is the same as when you light a fire to a torch. As you breathe, it's the air that keeps the fire burning, so you have heat in your body. Yet, like all things lit in time, you burn out or you are killed, and another puts out your inner fire, or you die. That is something puts something on your inner fire, and it goes out. Once your inner solar plex flame goes out, you stop breathing or feeding the fire right inside you. It needs air to burn. Once this stops, you are dead. The body begins to cool with no more fuel to feed the fire. The body dries, the flesh rots, and time stops for you. You, which you named at birth, you're then to the end. Yet, if there was more to you than feeding your flesh, blood, lustful pleasures, then and only then is there no end. you are received by those you trusted, right? So for those of you who are diligent, doing your rituals, making contact with your ancestors, when you physically die, you'll be able to you because you're adding energy, spirit energy to your body through the rituals. Even if you don't open your third eye, it will still connect you to the other realms when your physical body is no more. So you can actually make contact while you're alive, or you can make contact once your physical body dissipates. Provided your mind is focused on making contact with your ancestors through the rituals, guys, right? So you'll be raised to a higher abodes. Unlike the Tamhu or the Mukasu, this is their end. Their end is here, not there. And then there is the second abode. He's talking about the second abode is the plane of force he's talking about now. It was well subdivided into sub-abodes. So on that other realm, it also has different vibrations on that other realm. The abode of force of life. This next higher abode and see them as really one above the other. It says, for they are not. So don't see them as one above the other because they're not. They are states of existence as air and light in the same room, or as you look at liquid in one of its states, water, and know that environment change can change it to ice, snow, and steam. That you by your senses can see this does not mean that liquid can't have other higher forms to change into or come from as moisture or others you don't yet know exist. So he's saying we're on a material plane and it's interwoven with the plane of force. They're connected together. Okay. So just as you was watching the Doctor Strange or we were watching Avengers with the Master and the Hulk, he's in his spirit body and she can still see him. They're interfacing with each other so that the realms are interlapping. They're connected like water and ice. It's the same thing. It's of the same substance, but it's different vibrations, and you can still interact with each other. Okay. So this second abode of existence, which is the ether abode or plane, exists and is the motion of things alive, breath and shape and form, the life in all that lives, the vital matter which causes shape and determines form of fish and tree, fin, and leaf. Your spirit body is what decides. Your spirit body is what decides how your physical body looks. Your spirit body is what decides how your physical body looks. Every animal, every spirit, every living creature that has a spirit force, your spirit is its matrix, and it decides how that species is going to look. So let me repeat it. And it says here, so this second abode of existence, that's a plane of force, which is the ether abode or plane, exists and is the motion of things alive, breath and shape and form, the life in all that lives, the vital matter which causes shape. It causes shape, right? It morphs the shape. This energy determines the form of fish and tree, leaf, fin, and leaf. So it's what morphs this energy, is what morphs all objects, animate and inanimate, actually. Okay. And your physical body, yet it morphs your physical body, and yet as all other things, a part of matter, there is change as the physical body is constantly breaking down and rebuilding as your blood cells, a form of renewing called growth itself, with the chemicals provided in your environment, the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, and how you alter them for your pleasure or taste by choice. If not, the vital body would maintain its pattern or shape and size so that all looks the same at all stages of age, which is again time at work on a physical or material things. Meaning that if the environment, the things we do, we would look the same, guys. We wouldn't even age. But because of the different things, our cells are decaying. Because your spirit body stays the same, and your spirit body is what decides how you look. Okay, what alters us is our environment and the things we do, how we think. All of these things affect us. Is what we're saying here. says, on this etheric abode, Nuwapians are also the energy which sustains the spark of life, which sparks light, the inner sun or solar plex, in you all when the right liquids and solids mix to form a gas inside the body. And this newly formed chemical gas ignites and the fires of life is created in each being, right? So when you're the breath of life and you're breathing, it feeds your energy, okay? And that's why your spirit feeds off of that, off of the blood, the burning blood through oxygen. Now, if these gases, let's see. Now, if these gases are not controlled and grow too much inside the lungs, and the spark is ignited, you have what's called spontaneous combustion. Yet, if just the right balance is released at just the right moment, you have life. And as fire does, it consumes as you breathe and take in air laced with particles of matter to fuel the fire inside. Now, the vital body is within the seed of every growing thing. And as the vital body grows, so does the physical body, be it plant, animal, or mortal. So as your spirit body grows, the energy body, you go from a baby, you're growing into an adult, right? That's your vital body is growing, is developing, and so it's what grows. It's what builds your cells. While your cells grow and you manifest into an adult, is what he's saying, and that's how everything grows based on its vital body, its spirit body. Okay, the vital body is responsible for the many of the phenomena presently ascribed to the genes. Even monsters who from this abode, lower subabodes, can raise themselves up without form. Okay, yet with etheric force or ghost or spirit working with the gas and take shape and form into what they vibrate as. These spirits, he's talking about like ghost spirit forces, they can morph themselves to look like whatever they want. Okay, they can look like monsters and stuff like that and scare people, but they're just spirit forces. They're the same substance. There's no reason to be afraid of them because, once you have right knowledge, you know what you're dealing with. It's the same forces. And as non-ether beings, you're more powerful than they are. Remember that. Okay. Mentally, we can control them mentally. Just control your fear. That's, Mukasa wants us to fear all of this unknown stuff to us. We used to know the spirit knowledge. We don't know spirit knowledge anymore. Spirit science. We knew this science. Okay. That's why we're going over it. That's why I showed you earlier. The Mukasa knew. They know we knew this knowledge. And now we're just like them, ignorant to spirit knowledge. Okay, so if evil, it may incarnate as a demon in one of the many shapes and forms created in minds of evil Mukasu, right? The imagination becomes the actual image or imagination into image or form. There are no real monsters, only those created in the mind's eye of evil people and their fears, which take on form and then can be seen as monsters, right? Yet the gas, mist, the fog does exist as one of the liquid forms of ether, reaching down from 6 ether subabodes and climate change caused by emotion change or fear, which in turn is a mood change and opens a way for lower etheric beings to ascend into ghosts, spirit, specter, then into ghouls or monsters and become the living dead and feed many on the adrenaline in the blood, a secretion of those glands which work with your kidneys, the pair of organs which secretes the liquid called urine, which they are attracted to, such as your blood, your urine, your semen, your liquids, right? Spirits are attracted to the liquids in your bodies, guys, and they work by your fears, your fright, your terror, your dread, your alarm, a very unpleasant emotional energy caused by coming evil or danger. They feed off of these emotional energies of your stress and grief. So this is what he's saying, these lower forces. So we're stuck down here and we're being possessed by these lower forces and they feed off of that stuff. This is why the Mukasu makes sure his culture has all of these chaos because it's feeding his forces, guys. We talk about this a lot. All these affect your genes and your body and mind and weaken your vital body. This is how your spirit body gets weakened because of the culture we're living, which also regulates all your glands and healing process after wounds or sickness or disease. Nuwapians, we have walked through the first abode, which is the material plane of atoms, and physical abode of cells, which are in fact both one as energy forces, right? And disembodied ether gas or ghosts travel where they are welcome. So keep this in mind. This lifestyle depletes our vital body, our spirit body. This is why we age. This is why we decay, because of the culture we're living. Very important that we understand that, guys. So it goes on to say, let's see. And disembodied ether gas or ghosts travel where they are welcome. The gates of each abode must be open to them, and this is done as a higher existing being thinks, feels, desires, wishes, longs for, asks for, requests, and wants, and desirous, desirable, desirability is all hopes. That is expectation of something, desire, optimistic, and optimism is belief, which is belief, first part of belief, right? So all of these things we feel is what attracts these spirits to us. All of these desires, guys, it's what attracts these spirits to us, and they feed off of us, and they're keeping us bound to this realm. We talk about this, I talk about this, and I'm going to keep talking about it until we all get it. It says faith, which makes one a believer, believing in what is not confirmed, as in God or Allah or Jah, Lord, Spirit, deity or Dios, spooks, which are ghosts, unseen beings, and is in fact false hopes, the root of religions in the world today. So our people calling on God, they're calling on Allah, they're calling on Jah, they're calling on all these spirits, and these are nothing but ghost forces that we're calling on. Guys, we're calling on unseen spirit forces because of your desire, your hope. You're in the church hoping, you're praying, you're wanting this to change, you're wanting that to change. And that emotion you're putting in the prayers and all that stuff, you're bringing them to you. This is why we're constantly getting possessed. We're watching American Idol. We're desiring that. We want to be on TV. We want to win the lotto. We want to get that job. We want to do this. All of your hopes and desires, you're feeding those spirits because you're not focused on developing yourself, or you're not focused on creating an environment so that you can exist in harmony with nature. Our whole existence in this culture is everything's based on desire. It's all over the planet is like this. And that's why everyone's suffering. Everyone's being possessed because everyone's living the same way everywhere. Okay, so now spirit is essential character or even liquid gotten by distillation. That form is known yet mysteriously, or mystery is obscure or secret or unexplainable event or thing. Once you know that ghost is gas, spirit is fog, and as in steam, which can be felt as warm, which triggers a reaction on the physical, the same as spirit, as ghost specter, is felt mentally, and you enact a reaction called being filled with the Holy Ghost or spirit. Or you hear a religious song, gospel, and in music, the voice and the words combined make you react, be it religious, R&B, rock, blues, jazz, mambo, waltz, country, western, chanting, reciting holy books of words or tones. That sound touches your eardrum, which touches your nerves, which are clusters of fibers conveying feelings, impulses to motion to cause emotional reactions. Nuwapians is all emotional energies at work, where that which is unreal meshes with that which is real, as in a ghost or spirit looks like vapor, mist, or fog, steam, or transparent beings. You are in fact relating what you know exists gas with belief, ghost. One is real, so you're in the isms, religions as beliefs. All this happens on the first and second abode, linked to the third abode of ethereal beings, many from lower vibrational rates that you bring into your being by beliefs, faith, desire, hopes, lust, or greed. So, guys, he's saying these spirits are operating on a first and second abode, which is what I was talking about. We have the material plane, they're here, or the plane of force. They're operating from these realms, okay? And he goes on to say the third abode of ethereal beings, many from lower vibrational rates that you bring into your being by your beliefs and your faith, your desires, right? So you have those three abodes. We're on the material plane where we are now. The next one is the plane of force, interwoven. Then you have the spiritual plane, interwoven, and then you have the mental plane. They're all interwoven. In fact, I don't know if I brought up any other books that talks about the different planes. We've talked about it numerous of times in other discussions, guys, and I don't know if I have a diagram here. So here, the material plane, which is the first abode where we at, the plane of force. Then you have the spiritual plane. Then you have the mental plane. Then above that, the plane of divine truth, the plane of divine reality, and the bosom of El Elo, we say the creative force, right? So all of these planes are interwoven, like these three circles you see, they're all meshed into each other. And the way you connect to one is by raising or lowering your vibration. It's how you connect to one. So beings like ETs, when they come into this dimension, they're dropping in vibration. Our goal is to raise our vibration to go into their realms, as opposed to them dropping in vibration when they come into this realm. So that's important for us to understand what's happening there, okay, in the process. So all this information is to give you that awareness, but you're changing that nutational rate in order to move into the other realm, okay? But the things that are stopping us is our desires. These spirit forces are blocking us from doing these things. This is what we're talking about. Okay, so in fact, these emotions cause your continence to lower, and as they recorded, evil beings wait at the gate, that is of lower abodes, to ride your ether cord and enter your body and take control. And only facts, truth, reality, which is Wu-Sabat for you. It's your own defense. Your psychic self-defense is only found in Nuwapu, where you break away from his lies, deceptions, false hopes, beliefs, faith, image that work your imagination and creates false hopes, wants, wishes, desires, which transforms you into a wanted. And to get what you think you want, you do almost anything he asks of you or shows you, to the point that you give up your very your soul, which seals the higher abodes from you, and all your own ancestors can't reach you to help you, right? You're cut off, like it keeps saying. And know that no higher beings ask for blood, flesh, smoke, and alcohol. We don't do that in our rituals. We don't sacrifice no animals. We don't need no flesh. None of the higher masters, our ancestors who exist on those higher abodes, they don't need none of that. Because a lot of our people who think they're doing spiritual stuff, they don't realize they're contacting lower forces who ask for that stuff, guys. And now we move from the material abode, where we were, the abode of force, the vital abode, or Ka, spirit abode, linked to the personality of each person, onto the fourth or mental abode, the abode of Pa Chabetu, with what many call angelic beings, right? He's talking about the fourth, the mental plane. That's where the angelic beings, or what I was saying before, the ETs, they're vibrating on that fourth realm, right here, the fourth realm, okay? Then he goes on to say, of the astral abode, or the nutational frequency of its component atoms and no cells. So they don't have those are not cell life forms, they're atomic life forms. They're matter, material, but they're of Their vibrations are different. Okay, it says, yet is of the third abode of existence, and it as well has subabodes. Each of the lower abodes subdivide, right? This is the last stage of physical existence as you know it. So you have the material plane is physical. This plane of force is still physical, and the spiritual plane is also physical, guys, even though we're not in tune with them. This is the abode mortals use after what's called death of the physical body. The soul starts at this level, linked to or corresponds to what many think is spirit. Not all physical beings have ba, soul, yet they all have ka, spirit, linked to achak, ether, even animals and beasts. All living beings have ka, spirit, and ach, ether. Now plants have another form of ka, spirit, than mortals, yet they also have ach, ether. Yet not all living beings has ba, soul. Only the root race, Nagato, has all three, ka, ba, and ach. And the sun's rays translate into energy of higher forms in them only, right? We as Africans could process the sun's energy. We process the sun's energy, guys. We're the only ones that can do that. And real quick, I had a diagram right here, light and color. Okay. So when you have the sun, you can either refract the sun where it splits out. When it hits you, the energy splatters away, or reflect it, hit you, and it bounces off of you, or you absorb it. That's what we do as melanin beings. We absorb light energy into our bodies. That's important to know. Let's see where we at. Let's see. So for the sun is attracted to darker colors and repels lighter colors, and life, power, energy comes to the physical body by the sun's rays and its interaction with melanin and serotonin. And only melanite children, the golden ones, Nawapians, have that link to the sun. The Mukasu hide from the sun or it will kill their bodies. They have no ba and no link to above, only the lower abodes. Once they die, they either stay on this abode as disembodied ghosts, haunting places as evil spirits, or they descend to lower abodes and become ghouls or demons as the devil. They also can reincarnate. So let's keep that in mind, guys. The fourth higher abode is often called the abode of Nawar, or light, or heaven to religious persons. The abode of godhood, place of bliss, heavenly abode of the divine. Let's see. Then they link above with below, and it then becomes paradise, a garden of Eden, a place of perfect earth, and then translate it as a spiritual abode of cause. Yet, if you ask them how high is heaven, they can't tell you. Just as if you ask how low is hell, they don't know. Only that hell is the abode of original fire and heaven is of spirit. Nawapians, know that the fourth or mental abode is the highest. A physical being can think on a reservoir of mental, which feeds each mind to become my own thoughts or mine. Yet all thoughts and thinking comes from a reservoir of mental, nothing new under the sun. The abode of tone, by that is meant sound, form, light, or the eighth note in octaves by the Khamunu, which is our ancestral principles, guys. So you have Amun, Amen, Amin, or Om as in Om, or Omen as in happening, Omni, which is all. So you have omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, omniscience, omnivorous, and omnivorous, where sounds becomes light and things manifest or incarnate and materialize. As sound of music makes you feel, makes you move, makes you wish to sing or respond or resound, resonate or respond to vibrations of sound. Sound shapes into words, words into expressions, statements, stories of life and the living, all from things sent down from the mental into a person's own mind. Such is emotional energy, sound that which is heard, and sound solid of good judgment, soundly sounding, an act of sounding or ascertain depth. Depth is deepness, degree of deepness, or deep place or abyss. All things are linked to the first four abodes and interacting by vibrations of light and sound, and of ghosts or gas and ghosts, of spirit and mist, of soul and mood, of ether and liquid, of you and me, or you and I, emotional energies, right? So those, we're going into the different four abodes that we're connected to, is what the master teacher is explaining. In order to get to where the Nathar is, our ancestors, you got to pair through the fourth abode. That's the goal, guys. We're down here in the physical, and then you hear that you have that the life ether right here. This is the plane of force, and then you're moving into this higher life light ether. You have life ether, light ether, and mental ether. These are the different states of ether. It goes up in vibration as you're moving through the realms, and there's gates you got to get through as you're moving into different realms. We've talked about that before. For those who have questions, we can address it more. It's a lot of information, I know, and I try to it's more, it's so much more, but I got through this actual fact. You guys can read it, study it, watch this lecture again, study it, take your time, analyze it, ask questions about it. But you have to understand the different nutational rates, what your bodies consist of, the different energies you're made of. You have to keep that in mind. And you got to realize your emotional energies is trapping you, is locking you to this realm. That's what's blocking you. Your desires, your wants, your aspirations, your hopes, all of these things, that it's like a beacon for spirit forces. You literally just bring them to you. You bring them to you, and that's what's keeping you bound here. Your desire for money, your desire for food, your desire for sex, your desire for pleasure of all time. You're going to church and you're hoping God do this and you're hoping God do that. You're calling on those spirit forces through your hopes, your prayers, all that stuff. It's all fake. You're calling on fake things, and you're feeding those forces. And you have to understand that. So when we're calling on our ancestors, you're connected to your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your great-great-grand. You're visualizing them. You're supposed to visualize. Remember, in ancient Kemet, why you think we made all those pictures of our ancestors? We knew who we was calling on. We wasn't calling on unseen spirits. We knew we was calling on beings that would look like us, act like us. And we make communication with them so that we can stay in harmony with nature. That's why we do our rituals, to stay in harmony, not asking for this and asking for that. Your desires, you put your desires there. That's a lower vibration, and you're calling. That's when then you start calling on those forces to you. Okay, so you gotta keep that in mind. This is how we get spiritually trapped. So I hope that makes sense. Because I know, like I said, it's a lot of information, and so people might not be familiar with this level of information, but it's spiritual science. This is what we teach. Wu-Sabat it's a spiritual doctrine. The master teacher has been teaching the spiritual doctrine for over 50 some odd years. And it's been hard because we all of us are subject to desires, myself included, and this is what's blocking us, and we have to overcome it. And so I keep saying, spread the word, guys. Let people know. A lot of people, I know a lot of people are materialists, so they don't want to hear this, unfortunately. But you guys got to find better ways of convincing people they need to educate themselves spiritually. And it's imperative they listen to our discussions, because we're talking about it on all our different discussions. And next week, we're going to deal with actual facts number 18 that deals with the same subject matter on a different level, dealing with sounds, tones, frequencies, vibrations. So we're going to go into that next week. And so I hope, I hope that helps. But until that time, guys, I bless you. Right? We're gonna close out with our 9 o'clock prayers that we do. Right? So let's bring up our prayers. If you guys have any questions, real quick, I'll answer them. If not, we're gonna go into our prayers and go from there. Bade Kala Namasa Wufako America Samun Shalala Port. Guys, and for those who do not know, I'm gonna do our prayers in our language, Lahaj Sebeg, and you can follow me in English for those who do not know. So I just want to make that clear. And if you haven't learned it, take your time, learn these prayers. Remember, we're communicating with our ancestors. We're putting ourselves in a meditated mind, because really after the prayers and the chant, you're supposed to go into a meditated mind. So learn this rituals. That's why I do it all the time for you guys, to give you an example of how to go through it. Okay. So, let's get started. And we do our prayers, just for those who do not know, at 9 a.m., 3 p.m., 9 p.m. for the purpose of synchronicity, right? And this is the process of helping one raise their vibration. It helps you correct the way you think, right? To put your mind on the Nathar, making your desire, if you're going to have a desire, should be connect with the higher abodes, to connect with the higher forces. That's what you put your emotional energy to, raising your vibration. Okay, so let's start again. Bade Kalal Namasa Wufako Amad Kasamun Shalal Puot Pa Takyud Anuki Jawef Pa Ashuk Impa Puot Wu Kale Ashuk Kawun Jawef Nea Anuki Kasamun Impa Puot Wu Pa Puot Kawun Kasamun Im Nea Anuki Wahu Amad Pa Puot Wu Pa Puot Kawun Wahu Amah Nea Naku Kador Naju Amad Kasamun Impa Puot Wu Khabu Amam Muskasun Nakuk Kador Kawan Kaleb Afaf Nakuk Diya Jaweb Pa Puut Amah Wase Amah Diyani Kawun Lake Baku Jaweb Pa Puut Anuki Yabab Bi Nafasni Pa Puut Kawun Anuki Pa Puut Kador Nakuk Kador Pa Puut Amul Nakuk Amul Lahehum Manahnun Lahehum Manahnun Ahumata Karehum Ahumata Karekum, Ahumata Karenun, Ahumata Jawefnia, Ahumata Nia Wu Anuki Hum, Yaye Ashuk Re'e, Asmua Jayenun, Yaye Nataru Afuknun, Anunata Mukra Ukum, Yaye Nataru Afuknun, Afuknun, Yaye Nataru Nun, Anun, Atun, Atun. Amun. Namazo Wahu, Yaye Mufaku, Yayehu, Yaye Nataru, Yaye Soye, Yaye Nataru, Yaye Hika, Yaye Nataru, Ankum at the Pa Mufaku, Yayehu, Yaye Nataru, Ankum at the Pa Mufaku, Wu Anun at the Mukra Ukum. Bu ankum at the Musanun, Yayehu, Yaye Nataru, Aro Muklasnum Atum Re'e, Yayehu, Yaye Nataru, Namazo Atu, Aron Hu. Yaye Muktamu Afutnun, Ankum Mane Yake Laduda Muslafunun, Wu Muisa Unun, Mane Yake Sawura Paba, Mane Yake Kawuna Ka'u, Mane Yake Ata Achach, Mane Yake Kawuna Basha Wu Damam, Yaye Nataru Muktamu Nun, Aro Muftanun, Anhu Kawun Munza Mane Pa Nataru, Aro Anhu, Anhu Kawun Babi Yananan, Aro Anhu, Anhu Kawun Atum Re'e, Aro Anhu Kawun Haro, Namazo Talo. Yaye Nataru Muslafunun, Afutnu Mane Pa Mujwa'u, Afutnu Mane Gal Ha'an, Yaye Nataru Afutnun, Mane Saya Khayara, Afutnun Afutniya, Yaye Nataru Nun, Namazo Rabu Pa Tahmui. Nakuk Talub Tahmui Bi Pa Nataru, Mane pela en lawi tenanu, kale ranum atni at the lahe pa nataru. Wu kale namazo atni at the lahe kayat yatun laye pa nataru. Pasawa wu paturu. Panemas fa kawun. Pasawa wu paturu. Z kawuna nazula lahe enkum. Manemas ba wu masa. Ame hadayan wu dama manemos la fukun wu nataru ajula yana fasukun afuk shane kawun kun pasawa wu patara pa hadayan wu pa dama anun tawa ankun lahe panan dama wu shafe anun tawa ankun lahe tem nasuinun anun tawa ankum lahe ashukuma ankum at the muslafunun anun at the mukrat hukum anum talub nasa kuma anum talub nasa kuma and so nun kahen nataru and so nun muslafunun anun at the muspatu anun atun atun Amun. Yaye nataru nun. Yaye moftau. Yaye nataru. Yaye atumure. Yaye natar. Yaye nun. Yaye natar. Yaye nun tat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye ha. Yaye natar. Yaye ha tat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye kak. Ya ye natar, ya ye kaktat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye amun, ya ye natar, ya ye amun tat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye atun, ya ye natar, ya ye shishash, ya ye natar, ya ye tafafna tat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye sabat, ya ye natar, ya ye natat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye arash tat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye asar, ya ye natar, ya ye nabab hatat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye satach, ya ye natar, ya ye hara, ya ye natar, ya ye haptwi, ya ye natar, ya ye anaktat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye aha haratwi, ya ye natar, ya ye nafartun, ya ye natar, ya ye mantu, ya ye natar, ya ye bapti, ya ye natar, ya ye sachem tat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye hata haratat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye baibis, ya ye natar, ya ye patata, ya ye natar, ya ye basastat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye imhatap, ya ye natar, ya ye hu, ya ye natar, ya ye matat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye mahart, ya ye natar tat, ya ye khafaf re'e, ya ye natar, ya ye mishkinat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye re'e tat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye kintimate to you, ya ye natar, ya ye hika, ya ye natar tat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye ma'at, ya ye natar tat, ya ye renen tat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye shai, ya ye natar tat, ya ye sashat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye mafdat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye sabak, ya ye natar, ya ye anap, ya ye natar, ya ye khanun, ya ye natar, ya ye khanas, ya ye natar, ya ye patatanun, ya ye natar, ya ye soye, ya ye natar, ya ye haktat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye amas, ya ye natar, ya ye sarabtwi, ya ye natar, ya ye atun re'e, ya ye natar tat, ya ye dahutwi, ya ye natar, ya ye patata warat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye sakar tat, ya ye natar tat, ya ye ha, ya ye natar, ya ye neheb ka, ya ye natar, ya ye sakar, ya ye natar, ya ye ba, ya ye natar, Ya ye akar, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye imharatat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye wapawatat, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye sakhat hatab tat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye meri tat sakar tat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye soye tat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye garat tat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye asat inu, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye bahatat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye chanem tat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye manak tat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye chamem, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye mahatwi, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye kabesin and afaf, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye damata afaf, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye meritat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye nasat, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye imdadat tat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye nachakbatat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye sachatat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye anaktat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye dadad, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye tun, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye wahu, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye yasas, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye anach, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye afnuit, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye satat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye sachatwi, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye imat, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye nanah, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye imnuit, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye im sataktwi, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye mutaltat, Ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye rahashafaf, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye maratwi, Ya ye nathar, Ya ye amun re'e, Ya ye nathar, Yehu Anu Ata Kaleh Jawef Paot Nun Ra'e Tun Ra'e Tun Ra'e Mun Ra'e Jennifer. Okay, so as you guys should know, right? We do the rituals, we do the prayers, we do the chants. All of this is about calibrating your vibration, raising the vibration of your cells for the sole purpose of developing yourself spiritually, which is our ultimate objective. This is our ultimate goal, is to create this spiritual connection for the sole purpose of tapping into your higher energy fields, your higher energy bodies. This is your ultimate goal, is to make you in tune or aware with these other essence of yourself, right? And then this was to give you the ability to make to connect, to the higher dimensions. So this is why these rituals are key. I can't stress it enough. But until then, right, I'm always telling you guys, always spread the word, share, let people know what we're doing, the importance of our work. The key is your spiritual development. You remember, the Mukasu's whole system was based on materialism. The only way for us to restore our abilities and the only way to restore our societies and systems of justice is for us to balance ourselves out, and that's by developing your spiritual essence of yourself, learning to reopen your third eye. I cannot stress that enough. I cannot stress that enough. This is the solution to the problems that we're dealing with on the planet. This is the only solution to the problems that we're dealing with on the planet. We live on an imbalanced planet because we're ruled by imbalanced cultures. We live on an imbalanced planet because we're ruled by imbalanced cultures. And it's the culture of Wu-Sabat, the culture of Wu-Nawar, the culture of sound reasoning is the only solution to our problems we're dealing with as a people. This is how our ancestors lived. Know this. Until then, check us out next week. As I keep saying, spread the word, and spread the word.
Helen Hadsell was able to win any competition she took part in. She was known as the contest queen.